Hello to my beautiful family of light. Yes, that means you. And if you're not sure about that, stick around for a bit. You just might be convinced. If you're here for the first time, I want to welcome you to my channel. And if you've been following along this series of video, thank you for joining me again. I want to welcome you. My name is Claudia, and my channel is all about being more than you think you are, being a child of our Creator, and having an inner guidance system that is your gift from your Creator. And so grab a paper and pencil and follow along. You just may have some memories pop up in which you can get a clearer understanding of what I'm talking about. So this is number 15 in the series, and I post Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. There's some little bonuses coming up in between time, so don't forget to check or make sure you hit the subscribe button, and then you'll get notices every time a new video comes up. So I left off being in a new town, being a displaced homemaker, and I'm not the domestic model, so there's an adventure for you to begin with. And I'm a week into my place in this town, Cody, Wyoming, for the first time over Labor Day. So, you know, miracles, wonders, magic begins to happen. I arrived on a Sunday. Monday was the holiday, Labor Day weekend. By Tuesday, I had explored some of the town, and by Wednesday, I had signed a lease on a home in town that was just two blocks off of the main street and a block from the grocery store. So that was the beginning of how things were going. You know, then you have all the utilities to hook up and all kinds of things. So I was having fun really putting all of that together, getting my house in order and making preparations for my son to be able to visit. So his room was established, and I still had some furniture to buy. Well, he called me, right? And so we had a conversation that left him kind of speechless. So you may want to go back to 14 if you want to pick up on that. And so I'm trying to give you some highlights in each one so that you can get to know me a little bit better, because I am just come from a different place in my thinking, and that sometimes is what you need to create a bit of a shift and say, oh, I never thought about something like that. All right, so here we are. I've got my home set up, and the second week rolls around. I'm doing some exploring. There's two rivers. There's the North Fork of the Shoshone, which runs parallel with town. It goes east and west, so does the town. And then there's the South Fork of the Shoshone River, which runs along a steep and quite spectacular mountain range. The newness by the second week is beginning to wear off, but you know, my daily presence by then, when you create a big shift for yourself, you have expectations, and if they're not being fulfilled, then I began to wonder, what am I doing here? I did not really have an agenda. My agenda was to get a home, which was really important, a place to live, right? And to, you know, set up a place that my son could come to visit. And beyond that, I did not know even why I was there, why I had been encouraged to go there. And remember, it's a free will planet. So for me, this was a huge leap of faith. I left my former home in the Seattle area and went 4 states to the east, and you know, across a couple of mountain ranges. So you know, I just had expectations this stuff was going to start happening left and right, and it did. Indeed, it did. You begin establishing your own life, but I kept looking for what's next, what am I supposed to do now, and stuff didn't seem to be coming. I wasn't having any epiphanies or dreams, or nothing was coming at me in a particular way. I wasn't being guided. It was as if this is your home. Now it's time for you to make it that. So with the newness by the end of the week began wearing off, and when that happens and you come down off of your it's like the I'll call it the guidance high. Up till that point I was fueled. The momentum was propelling me along, and now it felt like the motor had stopped on the boat and I was just drifting. So and when there's worry and doubt, then the discomfort stimulates action. Now, I didn't really know it at that time. It's always hindsight when you look back to see something that you can say, oh, I kind of get what was going on there. So I used to, because I was close to town, I would walk the mile or so from my place up into town and do the streets. And because it was Western, that's what I saw. I saw, cowboys. I saw the hats and the boots and guns quite often, very, very prevalent. And I saw, jeans, and it wasn't just cowboys, it was the women and the children as well. Everybody was in Western wear, and it seemed appropriate and fitting. And I know that a few miles, I took a trip one day, just a little jog to get out of town, and I went up the South Fork, and it was completely different from the North Fork. That's a big canyon you follow up. It is the main highway to go into the east entrance of Yellowstone, and that intrigued me. I knew I would be doing that at some point. I wasn't sure how brave I was at this point and how far things were and all those things that you're not certain of. And so then, like you say, a little doubt and fear settle in. Well, so I take this trip. I'm driving. I'm wondering, why am I here? Why did you bring me here is really what I was saying. And I came around. I'm looking at this long mountain, beautiful, I suppose granite peaks, and came to find out that there was ice climbing along that in the winter and full of snow and that sort of thing. So I drove up along the South Fork River, and I came to an area several miles up the road, and it was a very gray, cloudy day. I kept looking like it was going to rain, so it was fitting my mood. Well, I turned this corner and came up this little hill, and at the rise of the crest of this hill, I looked out, and there, all of a sudden, in this valley that I was looking at, and not real clearly because of the nature of the weather, it's like the sky almost opened up. Fingers of brilliant light emanated from what were the gray clouds was now some blue sky and white clouds, and these fingers of light were shining down on this beautiful ranch land and the river and a stand of aspen trees that was absolutely golden and beautiful. And it caught my breath literally, and I pulled over to the side of the road, and I just sat there. There were horses prancing and running and playing in the field, and there was a huge, in another field, there was a huge group of cattle who had been gathered, and I came to find out that these things, the cattle roam freely all but during the winter. They're brought down from the higher eating areas back into the ranches. And there was, a neatly cut and turned hay that was little rows of this waiting to dry so that they could be baled. And the beauty literally caught my breath. And I remember thinking to myself that, well, I'm looking at God's creation and man's reverent, pleasing utilization of it. It had to have been a happy God that could see that. I mean, the work that goes into those things. And a peace that passes all understanding settled in to every cell, to every fiber, every bit of my being, right into the core. And all the fears and worries dissolved in the blink of an eye, as if to say that this was enough, that there didn't have to be more just then. So that was, when you're wondering what you're doing and why, sometimes it is something simple as getting out in nature and getting the realization that God is with you every moment of every day. There isn't a moment that you're alone. So a couple of things happened then. From then on, I had a habit of walking downtown to keep some exercise going for me. It was just a mile or a mile and a half one way and then coming back. And I used to notice the restaurants and whatnot and stop periodically for something to eat. There was a restaurant in town named La Comida. And that restaurant always had lines of people. Didn't matter what day of the week, as long as they were open, people wanted to eat there. And I kept going by when there was always crowds. This particular day, I decided to stop and just say, I'm going to wait. If it's a long wait, I'll wait. And in the waiting, I leaned up against the wall in the entryway, and the hostess came over to me and she pointed to a table with a single lady at it, and she said, that woman is wondering if you'd like to join her. She's just getting ready to order. And I said, sure. So I went over, and that was the establishment of a friendship that ended up being real fruitful. She was a delightful person who was studying bison poop up in Yellowstone and some of the other bison, habits and their habitat, etc. Well, we ate and we drank wine and, left the place while people were still waiting to get tables. And I invited her to come to my house and to spend the night rather than going back into Yellowstone. Well, we forged a friendship over that. And for the next 2 or 3 weekends, I was able to go up and stay with her in Yellowstone and go out on her field trips, which was a great, great thing because it diminished my fear of the wilderness and gave me some education in the process. And so, I had a wonderful experience doing that. Within a week, I guess that next week, I saw an ad in the paper for a need for hospital volunteers. And because of my age, which wasn't all that old, but at 39, I'm older than the candy stripers, and they called us gray ladies. And it was in going to that first meeting that I met a wonderful, wonderful woman who was just as pleasant and friendly as could be. And she invited me to participate in that program. And so I did, and we became lifelong friends. She and her husband took me under their wing, really took me on some grand adventures, and just made me to feel at home and welcome there, even though I may have been uncomfortable because of the nature, right? Being so foreign to me, cowboys, and we're working into hunting season, and that all really, I could see flatbeds and trucks full of dead animals. And up to that point, I had an aversion to guns. And so it was the beginning of a gentle and reasonable working into not being afraid of guns, but understanding their use in a way that doesn't harm people. You know, there's a part of indigenous person in me, right? My mother was, we believe, an eighth of indigenous Native American or Canadian, we're not sure. And so I've always had a reverence for the land and people and all things, but I know that even though the Indians honored and respected the food that was given to them, and from the food was given shelter and other materials for clothing and whatnot. So it isn't that it is something that needs to be thrown out or thought of so poorly. It was the beginning. This new existence for me in this community began a period and a process of opening myself to other cultures, other ways of thinking, and I didn't resist it. I had such good teachers along the way. And remember, I said earlier that that discontent breeds or stimulates action. So that's really what I'm caught up in here, and it is part of the message that I want you to go home with, is that you know, when you're not sure and your life is just going along, appreciate it. Appreciate every aspect of it. There's always going to be challenges and things that we aren't going to know what exactly to do with, but the calmer you are, the more centered and relaxed you are, the more open you are to getting guidance. That discomfort stimulates action, and so the action, you may be nudged to do like what I did. Just go for a little drive out or a walk out in nature or downtown and open yourself to new encounters with people and situations. And as I'm there, the longer I'm there, more and more adventures, come to me. And so I remember even going to, I was looking for a church, and I went to just all the churches. And in one of them, I could literally feel the dark cloud hanging over everybody's head. And I thought, this is just it's not for me. Fire and brimstone isn't how I roll. I believe in a God that is, happy, wants you to be happy, and isn't there to punish you for any reason at all. We do that well enough for ourselves. So, mountain living isn't for everybody, and I've lived many places since, but sometimes the memories of what I learned about myself during that time surface, and it is some of the most valuable time I've ever spent. So expect more, because the adventures do get more interesting as time goes on. So this was just an exercise, this first couple of weeks in settling in. The new settler is here and open to whatever comes next. I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope that you are having your own adventures in life and that you're open to more experiences. And I want you to know that I love you this much. These arms go all the way around you and are sending you warmth and loving energy, healing energy if you need it. And don't forget to be good stewards of the planet. I send that energy out to our planet too. We live here and she provides so much for us. So until I see you again in the next video along these adventures of the clueless moving into awareness, be well, be safe, be happy, be bold and fearless. And the things that you might want to know about me, you'll find down in the description how to reach me and such. And until the next time, know that you're loved and that you are way more than you think you are. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you again.